This was the school we went to from the 6th to the 8th grade. And these were the doors we poured through at recess to pick up sides for basketball. Some of us were pretty good. Some, like me, were lousy.
What'd you get him the ball for?
And one of us was Charlie. Probably the most talented human being I've ever known. Charlie came from the west side of town, where kids like Pete and Steve like to act tough and talk about where their tattoos were going to go. But Charlie was different. He had the lightest touch in the world. Everything he did was effortless. In his small, graceful hands, the ball seemed to come alive, skipping at his side like a little pet dog, leaping up and fetching him baskets, swish after swish after swish. By the 8th grade, Charlie was the talk of town. People could barely wait to see what he'd do next year in high school. I was happy just to be picked to play with him, even if it was usually as a favor to the other side. I remember our last grammar school game. We'd fallen behind by a few baskets, and there wasn't much time left in recess for Charlie to pour it on and win the day. I was in back minding my own business and watching him drive to the net when suddenly he wheeled around and fired the ball clear across the court to me. I stepped forward, shot, and missed. Charlie grabbed the rebound and passed me the ball again. I shot and missed. Charlie rushed in and in the shadow of the net threw the ball once again to me. This was insane. What was I supposed to do? The teacher had already left to ring the bell. I gripped the ball, prayed for luck, and missed. Charlie got possession, and just as I was beginning to relax, the worst was over. He passed the ball for the 4th straight time to me. I'll never forget the sight. A tunnel of players stood frozen in amazement before me, too stunned I still had the ball to try to steal it. There at the other end was Charlie, with his shy little smile, looking at me and pointing up at the basket. I stepped forward one last time, aimed, and missed. It was the most humiliating moment of my life. I didn't think Charlie would ever speak to me again. The next year, we all went to high school, and Charlie became a star. Sophomore year, he led the team to the playoffs, junior year to the finals, and senior year to the state crown. A national sports magazine said that Charlie's leadership had made a good team into a great one, and that pound for pound, he was the most phenomenal basketball talent in the history of the state. Senior year, the class voted Charlie most popular, most handsome, and done most for Central High, and made him king of the prom. I remember him standing there that night with his queen, a star athlete named Carmen that everyone assumed was his girlfriend. Not that he ever said so. He never really talked about himself. "The world is your court now," some teacher gushed, and the band struck up the music for the grand promenade. Charlie and Carmen started walking slowly around the gym, nodding and waving to the crowd. I went outside for some fresh air and ran into Steve. He was slumped against a car and staring at his shoes. You could smell the beer a mile away. "Charlie's dead," he said, spitting into the ground. "What do you mean?" "See that?" he said, pointing at the basket at the far end of the court where the decorating committee had hung the Central High banner. He used to joke that if he wasn't tall enough to stand and touch the net by the end of senior year, he'd never make the pros. He'd have to go off somewhere like his brother and be a bum. He bet me $10 once he'd make it. Guess what? I won. It was true, of course. Charlie had never been tall, but for 4 straight years he'd gone out there, made history, and never let us down. "Hey," I said, "Charlie doesn't give up." Steve spat again. His father's short. His brother's short. He knew he'd never make it all along. "You don't make All-State and just stop," I said. "He'll play college ball. I know Charlie." "Huh, you know Charlie," he muttered and walked off. I went back to the door and looked inside. Charlie and Carmen had just finished the promenade under the school banner and turned to face the room. Everyone was cheering. The magazine said so. He was the best the state had ever seen. It seemed impossible that a talent that huge would have no place to go. I never told anyone, but he'd always been my hero. I remembered the last time I'd faced him across the court like this, when we were still kids, and he'd lost the last game of the year just to give me a chance to score. Suddenly I knew that Charlie was done with glory, and that with that amazing grace of his for knowing what to do with a basketball, he was going to put it down for good. Fact was, I never did see Charlie again. He didn't even show for graduation. The music stopped, and as the class cheered and started moving toward him, he looked at Carmen, stepped lightly forward, and with that little smile of his, got lost in the crowd.